How does a traditional portrait differ from a self-portrait? A portrait is the product of a relationship between an artist and a sitter. In a self-portrait, artist and sitter are one. But the two types of portrait differ in other ways as well. In this video, we'll explore some of these differences by comparing two paintings by Lavinia Fontana. One is a self-portrait, the other depicts an Italian noblewoman. A portrait offers two types of information. First, what the sitter looks like. It could be true to life, or more commonly, better than life. Second, who the sitter is. In particular, a portrait provides information about the sitter's status in society. A self-portrait offers the same two types of information. In addition, a self-portrait can tell us what the artist does. That is, it can include references to the artist's skills, subjects, materials, and work ethic. We will first look at a portrait and then a self-portrait by Lavinia Fontana, an Italian artist. Lavinia Fontana was born in Bologna. In the 16th and 17th centuries, Bologna was the place where women artists were able to thrive, so Lavinia's career took off in her hometown. In 1603, she became an official painter to the pontifical court in Rome. This was a highly prestigious position. Lavinia was well known for her religious and mythological narratives and for her portraits of aristocratic women in Bologna. In a book about Bolognese artists published in 1678, decades after Lavinia's death, Carlo Cesare Malvasia wrote that all the rich women of Bologna wanted Lavinia to paint their portraits, and that she was well paid for doing so. In 1595, Lavinia painted a portrait of Costanza Alidossi, wife of Ridolfo Isolani. He worked for the Medici family in Florence, so Costanza was often left in charge of the household in Bologna. Costanza is shown indoors, sitting on a chair covered with red velvet. Green fabric is draped behind her. A glass vase filled with flowers sits on a table at the left. A small window opens out onto a courtyard. Costanza's portrait tells us what she looks like, within the limits of contemporary standards of beauty. Her face is well rounded with a fleshy chin. The one visible ear looks elongated, and the forehead is high. This type of face, a bit plump, conformed to the standard of beauty at the time. The same features can be seen in Lavinia's painting of Venus, created 3 years earlier. Venus was believed to be the most beautiful goddess. It is not surprising, then, that this face shape is found in portraits of fashionable contemporary women. A portrait also tells us who the sitter is. In other words, a portrait provides information about the sitter's status in society. This is done primarily through hair, jewelry, and clothes. With Costanza, all of these look fashionable and expensive, so they clearly identify her as upper class. Costanza's dark hair is pulled away from her face, curled and coiled. Costanza's jewelry includes an earring, rings, and 2 pearl necklaces. A jeweled cross is attached to the longer necklace. 2 gold bracelets lie on the table. Her face and neck are framed by a wide collar of gathered white linen, providing a contrast with the black silk dress. The bodice of the dress is decorated with bands of gold and silver embroidery. The skirt of the dress is open at the center, revealing an underskirt of floral gold brocade. A sitter's social status can also be emphasized by her pose. A figure who takes up space, for instance, can appear powerful and self-assured. Costanza is a full-length figure, which means we can't get too close to her, a sign of her higher status. And her arms, bent at the elbows, give her added width. Her body faces left, but she turns her head to acknowledge our presence as she confidently gazes out at us. This woman can stare down the meek and humble. The little lapdog is a traditional symbol of a woman's virtue, that is, her faithfulness to her husband and family. This makes Costanza look like a perfect upper-class wife. Size matters here. At 91 centimeters or 3 feet high, this painting is relatively large, most appropriate for an image of nobility. Let's turn to a self-portrait painted by Lavinia Fontana in 1579. This is a work on copper, only 15.7 centimeters in diameter, about 6 inches. To review, a traditional self-portrait shows us what the artist looks like, who the artist is, and what the artist does. A self-portrait can be a way for artists to advertise themselves by sending their portraits to potential patrons. A portrait can show, for instance, what kind of style and subject an artist prefers, and how they treat the human figure, fabric, furnishings, setting, and depth. Artists were known to exchange self-portraits among themselves as a way to check out the competition. In this portrait, Lavinia shows herself in her studio. Her name and the date are written in Latin on the lower left. A traditional self-portrait shows us what the artist looks like, but again within limits. Lavinia's round face has several features in common with Costanza's, right down to the fleshy jawline. This indicates we are dealing with a type of face fashionable at the time. A self-portrait also provides information about the artist's status in society through hair and clothing. Lavinia's hair is elaborately styled. Her clothing is fashionable and expensive. Her face and neck are framed by a high, wide collar made from rows of lace alternating with gathered fabric. Her outer dress boasts a wide slit sleeve that reveals the blouse worn underneath. Lace covers the cuffs. Lavinia's jewellery consists of a pair of gold bracelets and a necklace with a large cross. All this in a self-portrait means she is a successful artist who earns enough money to afford to dress like this. But what is significant here is that Lavinia's outfit is more modest than Costanza's. There are, for instance, no gold or silver threads embellishing Lavinia's dress. The material of her blouse is plain. And Lavinia wears less jewelry. All of this is deliberate. This is Lavinia indicating to prospective patrons that she knows her place. She does not aim to be mistaken for aristocracy with what she wears. She emphasizes her role as a working woman by showing us what she does. She has been copying a small sculpture of a classicizing type of male figure on the table. Lavinia pauses in her work to acknowledge the presence of the viewer. This means she will continue to draw, making her look like a hard-working artist, a quality patrons valued. She also lets us know she is a properly trained artist who makes sketches on paper. According to contemporary critics and teachers, sketching was a necessary first step in the making of a good painting. In depicting herself studying the human figure by drawing from ancient sculptures rather than from nude male models, she suggests that her behavior too is proper.